Okay, thank you, John, for your introduction, and thank you, all of you, for coming. I'm very happy to be here in Belfast. Well, as John said, I've been invited here because I am a member of the PTS, which is one of the three parties that form the Left and Workers Front, which is called the FIT, because of the acronym in Spanish. And as you probably know, the FIT made a breakthrough this year in the elections in 2013. And I hope that sharing experience with you, we can think about how we can build an alternative in Europe. Because you might think that given the crisis in Europe, which started in 2007, that would create the conditions to build an alternative, a working class an alternative. But it hasn't been the case. It's been difficult. Most people are disenchanted with the ruling parties and with the social democratic parties, but they don't see an alternative on the left either. So we're going to look at the situation in Argentina with the hope of that we can learn something for that experience. The FIT is made up of three parties. They are the PTS, of which I am a member, the PO, the Workers' Party, and the Socialist Left. The three parties are of Trotsky's tradition, the three of them. And the FIT was formed to fight in the general election in 2011, but in a way we were forced to unite. Why? Because the government changed the legislation, the electoral law, and the government introduced primary election. So you had to have 1.5% in the primary elections in order to be able to stand on the real election. So we were forced to unite in order to be able to to get that percentage of vote. So in those elections, in the 2011, we passed the primary election and we stood on the general elections, and the FIT obtained 2 provincial MP, one in the Neuquén province, another in the Córdoba province. The Neuquén province in the south of the country, and Córdoba is in the center of the country. But both provinces are very important for the economy of Argentina. Córdoba is an industrial province, and there is a big Volkswagen plant. Renault and Fiat also have plants, so it's a car manufacturing industry there. And it also has a long tradition of struggles. At the end of the 60s and in the 70s, there were coordinating bodies set up by the car workers. And in Neuquén has been at the center of the political scene of the last decade, mainly because of the struggle of the Sanon ceramic factory. I don't know if you have heard about it. It's a factory occupied by the workers. So, but the seats gained in that election were used to develop a struggle and to support other struggles. Raúl Godoy, who is the main leader, or the most important leader of the struggle of the Sanon. Sanon was, after the crisis in 2001, the factory was threatened with closure, and the workers occupied the factory, and after a few months, they put the factory into production, under workers' control. And after a long struggle, that was in after the crisis in 2001, so they occupied the factory in 2002, and after a few years and a long battle, they managed to nationalize to force the government to nationalize the factory, which is under workers' control. The main leader of that struggle was elected MP for the province of Neuquén in 2011. And the Sanon example is very good because it shows that workers have an alternative to the crisis. It's saying, no, we can organize a factory, we have an alternative, we have a solution facing the capitalist crisis. And this is not only in Argentina, but also internationally. Last year, Raúl came to Europe and he went to Greece, to France, to Germany, and he spoke with another workers in occupied factories in Germany and in France. So it's an example that can be used to say we can give another alternative to the crisis. And in the Córdoba province, Liliana, she was elected as an MP, and she's the leader of the teachers' union, and she had been leading a struggle, teacher strike, very important strike. So the two MPs that we obtained in 2011 are trade union activists, and they're, that's a key factor. In 2011, the government of Cristina Kirchner, which is the Peronist party, she was re-elected. So at the same election when we obtained two MPs, she was re-elected with 54.3% of the votes, with a high level of popularity. That was because, on one hand, Argentina was slow on being affected by the crisis. Why? Because Argentina was doing very well with in the agribusiness sector, mainly with the soya products, and China was the main buyer of Argentinian products. So that allowed the economy to to survive or not to feel the effects of the crisis. And on the other hand, she also got Cristina Kirchner, the president, she got the sympathy vote after the death of her husband and former president, Néstor Kirchner. So, but the things, by 2012, the situation changed slightly in Argentina. The inflation was very high, and also the government introduced a tax on salaries, on the very low salaries. These two features, if you like, the high inflation and this tax on the people with the low income, affected the popularity of the government. And the leader of the main trade union confederation, there are several trade union confederations, but the main one, the leader of the trade union confederation, who is one of the main supporters of the Peronist government, called a strike, general strike, in November 2012. A high level of workers observed the strike, and that was a strong message for the government. So only a year after the government won with almost 55% of the votes, the government faced mass revolts because the country was completely paralyzed for the day. So that strike cost the government the support of one of the main allies, who was the trade union, one of the trade unions. But also the general strike marked the decline of the Peronist government, which is, is also called the end of the Kirchner era. It's called Kirchner era because after the 2001 crisis, we had two governments by Néstor Kirchner and followed by his wife. So it's called the Kirchner era. Maybe I need to clarify here that in Argentina, what the Peronist party is, or what the Peronism is. In Argentina, there is no social democratic party like in Europe. So there is a Peronist party, which is a bourgeois, a nationalist party with some work in the trade unions. But in a way, the Peronist party fulfills the same function as the social democracy in Europe, in the sense that has given some reforms, especially in the past, to the workers, and also because it's a party that the workers vote for. So that's the situation in 2012. In 2013, there were elections again, and that was an important breakthrough for us. The FIT obtained more than 1,200,000 votes and gained 3 national MPs, 8 provincial MPs, 2 senators, several councillors, and in different provinces. If you count the votes at the national level, the percentage of the votes was only 5%, which is not very high. But in some provinces, the FIT won with 14% of the votes in Mendoza, 12% in Neuquén, 10% in Córdoba, and 20% in Salta. So where the FIT had political work, we did better. And because if you think, 5% is not very much. Any from left parties in France have obtained that. But also where we have political work in the factories and workplace, we obtained 20, even 40 with estimate. We got between 20 and 40% of the votes. And there is a new phenomenon, if you like, here, because traditionally the workers vote for the left representatives at the trade union level, for example, for shop steward committees and for the rank and file delegates in the factories. But when they had to vote on the general elections or they had to vote for presidential election, they will vote Peronism. So with kind of 2 different kind of consciences, if you like. In the factory, I work for the left because they're defending me, they're good at struggling. But for to run the country, I vote the Peronist party. So, and that was happening in 2011. But in 2013, that gap kind of was closed, if you like. So workers, some work in the factory, some work, not all of them, of course. Some of them, they voted for the FIT in the factory, but also they voted for us in the general elections. And we know that because we speak with the workers, and also some of the workers did some canvasses with us. So, and you can follow as well the number of votes in the after the results. And in the 2013 election, the government, the number of votes fell to 32%. So it went 54% almost 55% in 2011 to 32% in 2013. So we had done, we did a consistent work, strong work in the working class and the workplaces on jobs, labor conditions, wages, against the casual work among the youth. We also campaigned for human rights issue, which is a very burning issue in Argentina, the trial against the militaries involved in the dictatorship. Also, we did a very, very kind of high-profile campaign for justice for the. It was a young activist or member of the PO who was killed because he was. There was a strike that was in 2010. There was a strike of the railway workers, and they were demanding. They were on very short-term contracts, and they were demanding to be on permanent contract. About 3,000 workers were involved in this struggle, but the national leadership didn't support them because they completely compromised with the manager. So there was this struggle, and the trade union sent thugs, and this activist was killed. And he was a member of the PO, one of the members of the FIT, but the left really took that campaign and was very high profile. We also campaigned for housing, transport, price of energy, and other energy prices, the agreement that the government did with the multinational Chevron as well. And we also have a campaign on women's issue, and we call for the legislation of the abortion. I know it's a burning issue in Ireland as well, and we ask for free abortion, legal abortion, in Argentina. During the campaign, we also use some adverts, some TV adverts. I have a couple of them, they're only 30 seconds each, and that we use them during the campaign. One of the benefits of the new electoral law is that those parties who passed that 1.5% of the votes and were able to stand in the elections, they have daily free and radio, TV and radio broadcasting space. So I can't remember exactly how many minutes you have per day or in total, but you have slot of 30 seconds, and but the FIT did very well use of that spaces because we had a spot TV adverts in a very kind of professional way, and in each slot we tackle one issue of the program. So it's one about women, about trade union bureaucracy. So different issues were taken in each one of these slots. I know there are no recipes for how the left can be united in Europe. It could be a difficult task. In the 2001, 2002, after the crisis in Argentina, the left in Argentina was in very, very bad shape. And we did very, very badly after the elections. So because that was after 10 years of neoliberal policies, there was a defeat in the working class. The left was not in a good shape at all. And also because the crisis in 2001 was mainly around middle class, because the government confiscated the savings and people couldn't take the money out of the bank accounts. The money was devalued, but the protests were mainly middle class. The working class, the organized working class, didn't participate in the 2001 protests. The left didn't do very, very well. But after the crisis in 2001, there was a recovery of the economy, mainly because the peso was very low, so it was very easy for the country, the country benefited from selling soya and other products. So with money coming into the country, and the government created new jobs. So there is also a generational shift as well. We have new workers, young workers, that are now, for example, in the last elections, they didn't vote Peronist like their parents or great parents. They're new workers, and they have different ideas. In Europe, it's the same. Young people, they don't have confidence, they don't have trust in the Social Democratic Party. So what I would like to point out is that we unite behind a working class program. So there are three different parties. We maintain our differences, but we united behind a revolutionary program. So you don't need to dilute your program for the sake of the unity. And we use the seats in the parliament, I think that's what you were referring at the beginning, not as an end in itself, but as a means to develop the struggle, to talk about the issues that matter to people, to support struggles, to fight against the trade union bureaucracy, because some of the representatives that in the FIT, they are not trade union, that they are in the national executive or the national body. They are rank and file trade unionists. They are members of the shop steward committee, so they are very kind of close with the workmates or the people in the workplace. The FIT also made one of the points of the campaign was for an MP to earn the same salary as a teacher. So that was very popular, especially because the teachers are on strike because of pay. So we said an MP should earn the same salary as a teacher. And that was very popular, not among the MPs, but among the teachers, of course. And one of the things that the MPs, the FIT MPs did is, after they took office, they only take home the same salary as a teacher. The rest of the salary is used to support struggles or they use the money to give to strike funds. Also, because as I said, it's not a political party, it's a front, we rotate the seats between the first candidate on the list, on the FIT list. So we didn't hide the fact that we are revolutionary. We keep saying that we are against capitalism and capitalism should be replaced. But we did that talking about the matters of the working class issues. That's linking with that. And so the program of the FIT is anti-imperialist, is anti-capitalist, and socialist. And we also fight, and we say that our strategy is a workers' government. We say that. And it has been years in Argentina since the left with that profile has kind of such a good result. So, but beyond the electoral result, there is a possibility to build a big or mass workers' party in Argentina, because the government is not doing well. All the bourgeois alternatives are to the right of the government, and also because there is a left that is an alternative. It is a pole of attraction, if we like this left, and so that's kind of we can use that to say, we need to build an alternative. This is the possible. As I said, the FIT is a front. We have 3 different parties with some differences, but the differences are discussed in our paper that published. We don't kind of hide the differences. And I think the experience of the FIT is important, not only in Argentina, but also in Europe, because in Europe we have seen that some left coalitions, they have done quite well in the elections. We have the example of Syriza in Greece, or maybe the Izquierda Unida in Spain, the Front de Gauche in France, but they don't set up themselves a revolutionary task. They don't set up themselves the task of building a revolutionary alternative. They don't present a revolutionary program. They think that what you can do is you can reform capitalism. They don't, so they are, because I would like to be clear that our front is not the same as Syriza, because our strategy is different, because our aim is different, because we say clearly that we need to build a socialist alternative and anti-capitalist alternative. Also because we don't, we use the seats in the parliament as a voice, because we know we can't solve the problem, because with 2 MPs or 10 MPs we can't change the society. But so you can say, because I cannot change, I just abstain or have a kind of a passive attitude, or you can make the most of that possibility in order to build an alternative and to win workers for a revolutionary alternative. So I think we don't have to see the example in Argentina as an electoral result, but the other way around. The electoral result is an expression of the change in the consciousness of a sector of workers or group of sectors in Argentina. So I think we have to do the other way around. There has been a shift to the left because of the struggles. Maybe we can talk about the craft struggle and other important strikes that in Argentina that are beyond this electoral result, but they express a change in Argentina. I think I will stop now. I have the two of these TV. You would like to see them now? Yeah. So, and after that we can stop and we can have kind of discussion. I'll talk myself. We can have exchange views and point of view and opinions.
There's one there.
No, this is not. This is a photo of one of the because we have young candidates as well. So this is.
That's a good one.
This is one of the TV broadcast, advert that we use.
Bueno, muchachos, con el salario llegamos hasta acá.
Pero si los precios te la llevan para allá.
Bueno, tenemos que hacer un esfuerzo entre todos.
¿Este es el patrón? No. Esto es nuestro dirigente del sindicato. A estos hay que echarlos a todos. Necesitamos verdaderos delegados.
Hay que terminar con la burocracia sindical.
Todos los días luchamos por esto.
Necesitamos entonces la izquierda en el Congreso. En agosto contamos con tu voto.
En provincia, lista 506, cinturón a diputado, frente de izquierda.
Sorry, it's another one.
Espacio designado por la Dirección Nacional Electoral.
Yo quiero elegir que no mueran más mujeres por abortos clandestinos.
Yo quiero elegir que no nos discriminen en el trabajo.
Yo quiero elegir que no nos maltraten en casa,
donde estamos trabajando,
y en la calle.
Elegimos reclamar el derecho al aborto legal, seguro y gratuito, y contra la violencia en las redes de trata.
por todos los derechos para la mujer trabajadora.
Para fortalecer esta lucha, necesitamos a la izquierda en el Congreso.
En capital, lista 505, quiere cargar al senador, frente de izquierda.
And there's the last one. Sorry,
Espacio gratuito asignado por la Dirección Nacional Electoral.
Los trabajadores somos los que movemos el país, las calles, los municipios, las fábricas, los hospitales, las escuelas.
4 de cada 10 trabajamos en negro, 10.000 empleos del Estado sin contratados y miles de cooperativas sin familia.
Que los empresarios y terratenientes pongan la plata, más efectos permanentes para todos.
Para fortalecer la lucha de los trabajadores y la juventud, diputados de izquierda, Alejandra y José Mendoza, diputados. Lista 505, Frente de Izquierda y de los Trabajadores.
So these are only 3 of the adverts I have with English subtitles to show you. So as you could see, one was focusing on the casual work, which is the last one, and it's in the north of the country. Both candidates are they work. One is a refuse collector, and the other is he works in one of the state buildings. And the second one is about women's rights, focus on different issues of the legalization of abortion, and the first one is about the trade union bureaucracy. But we had, I can't remember how many of them, they were show not only in the space, in the broadcasting space provided by the government, but also in the streets. For example, near the train station in the rush hour, you have thousands and thousands of people, going, coming back from work. We have this on the street in the big wall. So that we did that to kind of advertise, to make kind of agitational work, if you like, on our program. Okay, I don't know if we can do some questions.
Yes,
Yes, My idea was to talk more, but because we're not so many of us, I thought we can make a massive exchange rather than me talking.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, of course.
You said at the beginning that the unity was forced on the three participatory groups.
Yes.
And that when they became involved in the elections, that they didn't hide or they didn't drop their revolutionary perspective.
Yeah.
Did all the three groups share that perspective in the beginning? Was it relatively easy for the unity to happen, or was there resistance to it within the organisations?
No, the three organizations, see, we were forced because we knew that we didn't stand together. We wouldn't, each party on its own, it wouldn't get to that 1.5%. And the PO comes from is a Trotskyist party, and it comes from a different group. It's a Trotskyist party, and also called, it's a revolutionary party. The socialist left and us, we come from the same origin, if you like, but also Trotskyist, and we all share revolutionary perspectives. So from that point of view, yes, it was not very difficult, if you like, because we all share that kind of common strategy. Maybe the difference was more on the practice. Where do we base our work? For example, the PTS has always based its work in the organized working class. The PO based its work more in the poor neighborhoods and shanty towns, especially around the Piqueteros movement. The Piqueteros movement is the movement which was emerged after the before the 2001 crisis, and they were unemployed workers blocking the roads and organizing barricades, burning tires. So they made, the PO did its work mainly in the poor neighborhoods, not very much in the organized working class. So for that reason, the PO has got high profile because it's well known, and also it's been around since the 40s or 50s against the Peronists. No, I don't know if I am answering your question or
yes, well, to a certain extent, yes, but the question was really asking, was there like a hierarchy within the organisations that were very committed to their particular, was there resistance, for example, with the PO to working within the organised working class because it was a shift for them? Was there?
No, because they still doing work with it, where they still doing work in the neighborhoods, but not. But after, but for example, now the unemployed movement is not very active, so they shift and they orientated more towards the teachers, for example, because I think they realized that it was kind of vacuum, so they orientated more. They shift towards working the factories and teaching union. And for example, when we decided who was kind of the first one heading first on the list, that was a negotiation, and depending on the political work of each party. For example, in Neuquén, because it was mainly around the work of the Sanon factory, we were the first one in the list. But in the north of the country, in Salta, the PO has more work because it's mainly work around the poor neighborhoods, so they were first on the list. So the negotiations for the order of the candidates in the list, in a way, reflects the political work of each organization. With staff, anyway. Yeah.
Who was the main group in that who put forward that idea that it should be that sort of front, whereas was that seemed like a good policy. So who were because was there any disagreement about the way that should be set up?
The idea was going around for a while, and in the past there were attempts attempts in Argentina. In the 80s, there was electoral alliance in the 80s, and there was another one in the 90s, but they were more popular front.
Yeah.
The second, in the 80s, was not with the Communist Party, but was more kind of popular front. The policy was more electoralist policy. Didn't have a clear revolutionary program. On the contrary, after the election, at that time was the mass, they said, okay, you have to keep voting for us because we're going to win the parliament, we're going to change, gradually we're going to change the world. And after that was a second attempt in the 90s, but that was between one Trotskyist party and the Communist Party, and that didn't kind of succeed. And so there were exchanged letters in the newspapers for a while.
What the debate and the idea of was it a united front?
Yes, it was going on. Yes, it was around. The thing is, it was forced in a way now because of the situation, because of the change on the law. Yeah.
Maybe you already told about I arrived late. In Argentina, is there an issue about the indigenous people, local people? I mean,
yes.
You're here in, and what is the relation? If you already told about...
No, I haven't mentioned that. That's a very good point. No, that's a very good point, actually. Yes, they are, they call original people, we call it in Spanish, indigenous, original people, in the north and in the south of the country. In the south of the country, I mentioned that the Sanon factory is a ceramic factory, and the previous owner he was using the land that is claimed by the original people, and he paid peanuts. So, but once the workers controlled the factory and put the factory into production, they're doing a kind of a fair trade with them. They ask them, the indigenous people, if they want to use the land, and also they work together to design some of the tiles. They do tiles in the, because it's a ceramic factory, and they kind of as expression of gratitude because of the exchange. They also, the workers of Sanon, they built a health center with the products from the factory for the local community, was mainly original people from that area. And in the north, there was a very important struggle last year because the government sent, the government sent the police to repress. Again, they were claiming for land. There was a big mobilization. I can't remember now the name of the original people, because in the south is Mapuches, in the north I can't remember. So there was a very, very long and very kind of strong struggle for the claim of their land. And the government, because in the north a big landowner, Buenos Aires is one thing, but the rest of the country you have big kind of like feudal times. You have, big landowners, they control the economy, they are big families, and they control politically now the place. And they were claiming for the land, and they were repressed, and two or three were killed. So we did, the FIT, we did an issue of that. We really campaigned. We also, because the provinces had kind of embassies, if you like, in Buenos Aires city, and we organized protests. So the claims of the original people are taken into account.
And the convergence of interest is structured also into the organization. Yes. They are
taken into account.
Local people,
yes, original people, yes,
into the organization,
yes,
into the
yes, and also we did campaign about the immigrants, mainly from Bolivia, because it's the racism in Argentina, especially the middle class from more European background, because they killed all indigenous in the 1850s. So there is a work in the immigrant community, mainly Bolivia, who really work in the sweatshops in, very badly paid, in the textile sweatshops, really. So we also take that into part of our demands. Okay. Questions, comments?
I see the factory takeover. Part of the workers obviously keep control of it. There was a legal transfer.
Fighting the police.
yeah. No. But legally and the rest of the boss once things settled after the recovery and so on.
You mean the Sanon factory?
I heard there was a lot of factories taking over.
Yeah, that's right.
But a lot of the factories were lost again.
Yes.
Shortly after?
Yes. During the crisis in 2001, about 128 factories were occupied. I think some people claim more than that. About 125 factories were occupied. Most of them were occupied because the bosses they couldn't pay the salaries, so they abandoned the places and workers would keep going. So some of them were cooperatives, and after the crisis they became kind of a capitalist cooperative. Some of them they couldn't keep up and they were abandoned. And in the Sanon case, there was another case, was Brookman, was a textile. They were under occupation. They were mainly women. They fought against the police. The police tried to evict them, hundreds of times. And in the Sanon, what happened is, first they occupied, after they put the factory and the production, and what happened is the owner had a debt with the provincial government because they hadn't paid gas and the electricity. But the Sanon workers, they did a lot of work with the community. They built up links with the community. And so they managed to get money to pay the gas so they could turn the ignition in the kind of industrial oven on. And they started to do that. And so the beginning, first they sold what they have in stock, and after they started to produce. And again, the government sent the police, the army, everything, and they had to defend literally on the roof of the building, even with throwing stones at the police. But as well as, parallel to that was a legal battle. So the battle was fought on the street, in the factory, but also in the legal level. We went to court, with lawyers supporting the movement and showing that the owner had abandoned the place, didn't pay the money. So what the workers did, they paid the debt to run it. And they forced the government to nationalize the place, and the workers, if they work under work control, they have assemblies. And there are a couple of cooperatives, but they work as a cooperatives, not as a workers' control, because also there was a sector of the bureaucracy that saw kind of a niche, if you like, in the cooperative. So they intervene in some cooperative with a kind of this reformist policy. Mm-hmm.
I made a comment and then see if anything else. The thing that really stuck out at me there was the election advert for free abortion on demand. Because you had the terrible abortion scandal in the south. Mm-hmm. You had quite a sizable mobilisation of women saying we've had enough of this crap. But the demand of the trade unions and the socialists was legislate for X. Which in an earlier abortion scandal, well, the government did legislate. It passed a new law, which is very different from the old law. And included in that law is the possibility that you could get 14 years in jail for procuring an abortion. And some of the feminist movement in the South say, well, that's progress. We're reforming. We're moving forward. Now, and really at the core of the argument I'm trying to make, I think Alejandra's trying to make, is that when the women came onto the streets, we had to say free abortion on demand, because they could organise around that demand, and they couldn't organise around any other demand. But the socialists in Ireland say, if you make too bold a demand, you'll be isolated. It's better to be more moderate.
Yeah.
But when you're more moderate, nobody knows you exist at all. Now, I want to be careful. I want to be really careful, because the mobilisation of the workers, I think, in Argentina came before the success of the socialists. It's not the socialists who are producing the movement forward of the workers. It's a movement forward of the workers that's propelling forward the socialists. But the socialists had to be there. They had to be there first, and they had to be making socialist demands. Otherwise, when we see it all over the world, and we see young people rising up, calling for change, and they're looking, what do we say? And then the movements fall apart. The Occupy is maybe the perfect example. We know what's wrong. We hate it. We want to rise up, but what do you rise up around? And nobody is there to say.
Yes, there was also very patient work inside the factories, because, for example, Raúl, the factory was under occupation in 2001, but he had been working in the factory for 10 years before that. And he was a trade union leader, used to go play football every Saturday. So he really won the trust of the other workers. Not that one day you just go and take a crazy thing. The same in other factory, you really had to build the trust with workers. I don't know how it's in Ireland. In Argentina, the bureaucracy is very, very. We don't even call trade union leaders. When I translate from Spanish into English, we have to say trade union leaders, because it sounds bad in English to say trade union bureaucracy. But in Argentina, we call trade union bureaucracy because they are very, very compromised with the bosses. They are managers. They have the franchise or some privatized freight in the railway. They have money. Some of them involved in corruption issues. They have people armed, in the demonstration to intimidate activists. And also, if you're in a factory, they, single you out and you lose your job. That's what the bureaucracy does. I don't know how the situation is here. So you have to really do patient work, to wait for the moment to be, the right moment, or to be, right, really.
What struck me as well is the relationship between Argentinian workers and the Peronist Party, and how the break came, or seems to have came, relatively suddenly. But if the workers had moved or became agitated to that extent since the crisis in 2001 until 2012 or 2013, I think it's a long time before the Irish workers would break. There was a similar relationship between Irish workers and Fianna Fáil in the South. So we'll have another 12 years to go before that. Following the crisis of 2007, we'll have 7 or 8 years before workers will come.
Yes, this is something new. Tomorrow is going to be a general strike in Argentina. It's a general strike called by the CGT. And in the workplaces, people are organizing assemblies, and to vote, to go on a strike, because there are different trade unions in Argentina, but they're voting, to go on a strike. And as I said, in the last election, the government got 32%, so they still, have the vote, and also the right-wing Peronists, they got some votes. But there's a shift, there's a change. Mainly, we think it's coming from the young workers. They don't have illusion because their parents maybe they would have voted for Peronism because they managed to get the house. They managed to buy a house under the Peronist government. They managed to have trade union. Women managed to get a vote during the Peronist governments in the 50s. So was kind of an emotional attachment as well, because that's my party, because the Peronist party gave us the right to be in a trade union. They created what we call the obra social. It's like because it's no NHS system, but you have health scheme through the union. So you had nothing of that. So it was a big, was very kind of patronizing in a way, but you had, as well as the right to belong to a union. Some people were able to buy the house for the first time. They have access to this scheme, a health scheme, and also there were kind of houses in the outskirts, on the mountains, whatever, for holidays. So you could book your holiday with your family in a hotel that belonged to your trade union. Was, big power in the trade unions to control the workers. So it was kind of, it's something very, 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 it's something difficult. Maybe in England, it's how do you break with the Labour Party, how do you break with the Peronist. And now it's mainly the new work, the young workers, the new generation. For that reason, it's kind of the generational shift.
Well, the bureaucracy seems to have it really stitched up. So how did it get to the point that the young workers, or how did the young workers manage to break with the bureaucracy to that extent? Did they organise themselves? Did they have rank and file organisations, or did they, how did they do it?
Because they vote for the election in the union. You vote for the representative in your workplace, for your delegate, and after the delegate is part of the shop steward committee. And these are votes in the factory, and there are different lists. So if you manage to get a list, you receive a vote. But it's not very easy sometimes.
I might be able to. I might have this wrong. You tell me.
No.
But when a trade union bureaucracy degenerates, it doesn't stop at any particular point. It just keeps on degenerating, and that's what's happened in social partnership. I was standing next to a leading trade unionist a couple of weeks ago, and she says, "I have to go early. I have to get back to Dublin and save the economy." So these people are absolutely convinced that they're part of the capitalist class, ruling the world. In the craft factory, as I read about it, the bureaucracy had become so arrogant they no longer visited the factory. They just rang the employers and asked for the subs to be sent to the office. And as a result, you had this enormous factory, thousands of workers, terrible oppression, burning anger, and nothing to keep the lid on it. And it's a bit like George Holloway said one very good thing when at the start of the Arab Spring. He said, "Well, it's like the straw that broke the camel's back. Mubarak didn't know it was that straw, or he wouldn't have put it on their back." The problem in Ireland is we've had two absolutely stupendous defeats. I mean, anybody in the north who was anyway Republican is watching McGuinness toast the Queen last night.
Yes.
There's only one way to explain that. Utter and absolute defeat, we've been crushed, and you've had a similar progress with social partnership in Ireland, where I was on a big mass demonstration in Dublin against 3.5 billion welfare cuts. Trade unions were the leaders of the thing. They'd already agreed. They were sitting in cabinet with the bosses in the government. They'd agreed the 3.5 billion cut, and the only reason they were on the streets was they wanted another million as a wealth tax to cover themselves better. So these sort of things don't go on forever. They go on for a long time, but and the result of defeat is to depress people. People will say, "Oh, we'll have to get back on our feet again." I just blank my mind of all politics and just forget there is any such thing. But eventually, hopefully you're wrong, Chris. That's 12 years. In fact, we've had about 15 years of the peace process, so.
They seem to have the advantage of very large concentrations of workers too, and like you say, John, to lay off the wall in the factories, so that contribute to the breakdown of their control. Whereas here it's much smaller workplaces, smaller concentrations of workers.
Well, I think the main thing is that when workers do some, one of the last things I was involved in was the Vistian thing. And you went up with me, Chris, I think, and what happened is the trade union stood by. Ford set up a fake company called Vistian, said, "We promise that your conditions have been transferred to Vistian." And then Vistian closed the factory and said, "Actually, you've lost all your rights." So the workers occupied. And at that point, they got their back pay, and they got their redundancy pay. And there was a small item in the news, I don't know if you saw it, 2 days ago. The eventual outcome was they got 40% of their pension, which is a big defeat, but they would have got nothing at all. Yeah. It was the fact that and there's actually been a whole series of quite small, Waterford Glass, that sort of, a whole series of quite small scale things where the workers, I remember one of our comrades trying to get Waterford Glass workers onto the platform of all these socialist ULA campaigns. Nobody wanted them on because everybody knew that the TSU bureaucracy had already sold out, and they didn't want to be contaminated throughout. In fact, even the workers themselves were absolutely dependent. They didn't make very sharply, but these things keep coming up.
I suppose you probably would say that, I guess you're trying to do stuff in Europe now, or trying to tell people what's happening in your own country, and I suppose, would you say that, each country is different? I mean, because you can see from Argentina, it seems that, there seems to be quite a strong kind of base of workers in factories or whatever. I'm not saying that sort of that makes it easier or anything like that, because what you've been talking about isn't like that. It's sort of like it's because you've maintained a certain organisation, organisation strength in your own groups. That's the key. It's not the only key. One of it's really John was saying it's about putting across those demands, those slogans, as well as the workers being, sort of ready for those slogans. But I think it would be wrong of us to say, well, it's not the same here. We're so demoralised. We've got such a, you look at what the history of social partnership in the South, and Thatcherism in the 80s, and then pretty destroyed in industry and, all these things. And, there is a lot of demoralisation and confusion on the left, and confusion with people as to what the left is saying and stuff like that. So I think what you're putting across, it's great to hear, because it's sort of like, yeah, that's what we should be doing, but it's not that we put across the same slogans, but it's more about the method of actually knowing where people are at and what to say, and the fact your own organisation has to be, not sort of capitulating to sort of go, like populism, which is what happens to the left, I think, in Britain especially, around anti-capitalism. I was in SWP, and I was appalled by just this sort of like surrender to sort of just this populism, and it's like, and now that really has dissipated, and there's just demoralisation left. And it's quite a simple thing. It's like, I think like the ideas of the United Front rather than it's not a popular front, which is what we have with things like respect and things like that. They were fatal.
Yes, and I think your reflections are important, because I agree with you. On one hand, you cannot translate the situation automatically, because the traditions are different. There are different, political history, different, political experiences, and the rhythms are different. Argentina is a semi-colonial country, and it's a very poor country. So, but for example, in the south of Europe, it has been, very, very badly affected by the crisis, and of course you cannot translate the situation automatically. And I think what you said, the method is important, so that you don't have to lose your your strategy. Because, for example, with respect, what happened is precisely because instead of saying, it was very good to build that movement against the war, it was, great, but instead of using that to develop a revolutionary alternative, it was used to develop a popular front alternative. So that's when you lose people around, and people get demoralized because they think, oh, that's the only way, and it's not that. You can build a different alternative. You have, to have the will to do that, and of course the combination of subjective and objective factors. But if you keep your strategy, when the time is ready, you can merge, if you like, with sectors that are ready. For example, as I said, in 2002 or 3 elections, the left that was, in a terrible state. So, for example, we could have said there's nothing else to do or become populist, but we decided to go to the factories. No, we had to concentrate doing that was conscious. Yes, that was a conscious decision. What is not conscious is, how you can decide how it's going to be, but the decision to go in the factory, that's a conscious decision that you make. So that was a kind of decision, like a conscious decision. It's not up to you how that developed, but the decision to go to the factory, yes, is a conscious decision. And that's when, if you don't lose the strategy, because otherwise it's very, you can be, I live in England, and, sometimes it's very, very, very difficult.
I can see some people who've got a cold at the back there, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask anybody who hasn't spoken to speak, and if nobody else wants to speak, I'm not going to exactly stop the thing, but I'm going to move it to madness. So, does anybody who hasn't said anything want to say anything?
Sorry, I couldn't.
If you would recommend an English language book, about the movement, the developments.
About this particular movement? Or?
Yeah, well, the translate.
I could recommend the website. the website, but in English, a book on the.
There's a book on the craft struggle.
There's a book on the craft struggle.
Which would be a really good introduction.
Yes.
I think.
It's a book on the craft. Do you have that?
No, I don't have it.
Okay.
Suppose it's just to get.
But there's quite a big website associated with the Argentine socialist movement, and they do have
English.
Stuff in English. And
you have a lot of stuff in English. Yeah.
You would probably be able to contact them and get stuff directly from them, you know.
I can give you the detail because we have a lot of English.